The following is a presentation of the Eagles Sports Network.
All right, Mike Clowney, a lot going on this weekend. Senior Day, homecoming, military appreciation, or Veterans Appreciation Day, and you play UVA Wise to wrap up the home schedule. Open this up with a statement about the Cavs and all the festivities going on this weekend.
Homecoming is always great having, people back on campus. We're in another little battle across up the street again this week. I think we're pretty much the same time, but it's always great to have, our people back home, and homecoming's, always a bigger, more fun game for us. Senior Day, we've got about 15 guys that, this is their last time playing at what we've started to turn a little bit more here at the Creek, and just super excited about, watching those guys get out, play, perform, their last opportunity here, and just hopefully we can play well enough to show them how much we appreciate them and what they've done here. And then the football game. It's like UVA Wise is a very worthy opponent, and, it'll be a good football game.
Let's focus on the seniors. I mean, back-to-back years where the 4-year, 5-year, I guess 6-year member of the class are not big numbers. Part of that is due to COVID, and you'll probably have it swing the other way here in 2 and 3 years. But just, guys like Alonzo Houston, Caleb Goins, Braxton Westfield, Trey Zelger, Adini Weiss, the numbers aren't many, but the quality of person and player who has been here for 4 years is pretty substantial.
Yep, I think, when we had our chapel before the game last week, Marty had all of our seniors come stand up. And, he asked, the question of, how many of you guys have been here 4 years? There was only 6 guys. And it's just kind of when you go back and you look at the story of those guys that's been here for a while and what they've been through. And that's kind of what he talked about, Alonzo, just kind of, started from the bottom, now you're here. Caleb Goins, started from the bottom, now you're here. And even with Braxton, with some success that he had, kind of come in that first year as ineligible. So anytime you come into a program you can expect to have some type of difficulties, and then you get into today's world with the transfer portal and all this stuff, and just have guys to stick it out, from beginning to end is something I think that's a testament to them, their character, and the people that raised them.
Still, though, some transfers that you honor, and they have been impactful as well. Guys like Ivan Corbin, Mike Pepin have come in. Obviously, done things. Started at quarterback, started on the offensive line. What have those guys done to complement those 4, 5, 6-year players who've been around the block here for a minute?
I think when you bring guys in, it's it's a two-way street. When you bring guys in, the biggest thing you want guys that transfer in is to be able to adapt to your culture. And I think that's something that those guys have done really well. You go back, several years from now, we talked to guys last year that kind of transferred in. It's something that's important to me as a coach, and I think that should be important to players and their parents when they're looking for a place to go. Is putting yourself at a place to where you can always have something to be a part of. And the way they adapted to the culture, interjecting themselves here, they're Carson-Newman Eagles forever. And so, regardless of, how long that time was, we appreciate the time that we've had with them. I know us as a coaching staff, we try to do everything that we can to maximize that time, whether it's a year or 6 years.
The opponent is UVA Wise, and it feels like a Cavalier team that had its struggles early, but, man, is on the cusp. 2 just gut-wrenching losses at home to Tuscaloosa and Mars Hill. Probably 2 losses that Dane Dameron and company look at and say, we should have had these, but sandwich that around a quality win on the road at Erskine. Just how close do you feel like UVA Wise is, and how does that bear into the seriousness of the preparation?
I think they've been very close, and I think, we were in that situation to where you're sitting there and you're fighting every way to try to find a win. And, it's hard, but, the thing that they've done is they continue to stay in the fight. The big thing for us is, we have to continue to focus on us and what we need to do to get better, because we aren't there either. We still got some climbing that we need to do, and that's what we need to focus on.
One of the most dynamic players in the the South Atlantic Conference is Carter, sixth in the country in return yardage. He leads the league in interceptions. He's top 10 in the country in interceptions. What sticks out to you about that defensive back and what he's capable of?
Super athletic, capable of doing a multitude of things, which they do, a good job of kind of giving him some variety. Great cover guy. They'll give him some stuff off the edge to where he get involved in the backfield. He's just a really good football player.
They've rotated quarterbacks a fair bit. Obviously familiar with Lyndon Redwine. He's completed a pretty substantial percentage of his passes in the last 2 years against Carson-Newman, but Jawan Dent got some run last week in the loss to Marsville. How are they similar? How are they different in what they do under center for the Cavs?
I think they're both very similar. I think, Coach, they've got a good scheme. They kind of pretty much stick to it. And I think the biggest thing they're probably trying to do is figure out how to put points on the board. And sometimes you kind of do a little change up here and there to figure out if you can get yourself across the finish line. But I think both are quality players, and we have to be prepared to play either way.
UVA Wise kind of has become known for the quick tempo, the short to intermediate passing game. What are the challenges in defending that?
The big thing is getting set, staying focused. A lot of times, especially when something goes wrong, we can't focus on what just went wrong. We have to focus on the next play. I think that's where they create some problems. But we just have to be prepared to get lined up and go run. We played a bunch of different kids. So, from that standpoint, we've got to be smart with substitutions. But at the same time, kids just have to be ready to play.
The message pretty much all year long has been building on consistency. The pendulum swung back to the good side against Emory and Henry on Saturday. How do you keep it there?
I think for us, just going in yesterday, just talking about, figuring out again how to give our best, trying to have that momentum, trying to put this thing back together, over and over and over again. One example I had, we had a kid that hit a punt at practice about 2 weeks ago, and one of our other players was like, man, why is he not our punter? And so I was like, yeah, he's like, man, that was crazy. He hit that. And I was like, the thing is, if he hits it like that every single time, he would probably play on Sunday. But the bottom line is, he's got to get to the point that he can do that every single time. And just still working on getting our kids to understand that, it doesn't matter how you played last week, good or bad. The thing is what type of performance are we going to work to put together this week? So it's about learning how to forget the past and move forward towards the future, and then still, too, working to give your absolute very best every time you show up on the field.
You still have a crack at a winning season should you win out. How much of a message is that these last 2 weeks, or is that something, hey, just worry about the process and giving your best in this week?
I think it's something that's important for us to know. And so every game, win or lose this year, I've come in and we just talked about the game we just played and getting ready for next week. But, that it was one thing that came up Saturday. I think it's something that, our guys need to be aware of. I think it's something that's worthy of fighting for. And so, it would be I'd be a terrible coach if I didn't tell them that, and give them the opportunity to know what's happening. And now we have to go fight for that.
The game on Saturday featured oodles and oodles of passes. Something you threw 28 times. Haven't had that happen since you were playing 1996 in the national title game against Northern Colorado. Do you look to chuck it up? Say chuck it up. It was 28 times. We say chuck it up here because of the nature of the offense over the last 4 years. But is that just take what the defense gives you, or that can be a part of the process, I suppose?
I think it is part of the process, because in order to get to where we ultimately want to be, we've still got to be able to throw football better than we have. And so it's good in Saturday's game, to be able to throw the football to win, is something that, I think for us as an offense, we've got to prove that we're capable of doing. People have put us in that situation to force us to have to prove it. And so to be able to kind of accomplish that last week, now we've gotten it done, we can do it if we need to. And we go back to that word again, now can we consistently do what we need to do to get to where we need to be with our passing game?
As a result, you kind of had some players step up and do some things who had Cade Meeks into the end zone for the first time. Zach Chalmers with his first career reception. You utilized Tyree Nelson in the passing game in ways that you hadn't all season. How nice is it to see the results bear out for some guys who no doubt have worked hard throughout the season?
You know, I think that's your big thing is seeing the results. Like, you know, say like with Tyree, just getting those out there to know, okay, like, you know, we can play throw and catch. It's not awkward when we have that guy out there. But then it's even in the game with Zach to where I'm like, he catches the ball, he's kind of standing there. I'm like, hey, dude, like next time catch the ball and get upfield. You know, but like it was his first catch. I was like, was that your first catch? He's like, yeah, that was my first catch. You know, he's played in ball games, but he just hadn't gotten his hand on the ball yet. And so now I think when he goes out there, that expectation, and we targeted him several other times, that expectation of, you know, like I'm not just out here because Braxton went to the sideline because he just ran a long route. But, you know, I'm out here and there's a chance of me being able to get in the game and affect the game and make plays. You know, and so hopefully that's something that would kind of propel him to continue to pick up his progress, you know, and develop as a player. Cade's played consistent for us all year. He's done a great job blocking on the perimeters, caught some footballs, you know, but then and then a spectacular catch in the end zone, but high points the ball. You know, he's able to get 1 foot down, you know, at a critical point in the game to where we really need a touchdown. And so that was exciting to see.
Anything else?